You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Happy Wednesday. We are back doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I am your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire through USA Today Sports Media Group. And we had two press conferences with two head coaches. It's been a very long time since that's happened, both in person, no less. So that's awesome. So we are going to spend the bulk talking, obviously, about Jim Harbaugh and what he said about spring ball, because there's a lot that kind of came out of that on Tuesday, and then we are going to get into, in the final segment, discussing Juwan Howard and his very contrite 20-minute long apology, essentially, and the thoughts about that. So lots to dig into here. So let's get into it now. So Jim Harbaugh had he just exuded enthusiasm. And I know for someone that says that he approaches everything with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind, that's not exactly how he feels with the media a lot of the time. But on Tuesday, he absolutely did. I asked him about the state of the defensive front, and he kind of demurred and said that he feels that Mike Morris could be the next Aiden Hutchinson or David Ojabo, but before he did, he said the state of the Michigan football program is scary good. And for the fact that there is a lot to be learned on the defensive side of the ball, that is pretty exciting. If he just left it at that, then it would be pretty exciting as well. But then he used that term multiple times throughout. It says, it's going to be scary good. It's scary good. And, why did you come back? And while that might be a little bit muddled, in my opinion, the reasons why he returned to Michigan, he just touted this scary good football team. Now, he did say with the law of averages say that at some point you have to come back down to earth. But with this group, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen anytime soon. So that, I think, is the biggest takeaway. Weirdly, the least read of all the things that I put out. But definitely got the impression that, hey, he feels really good about this football team. And usually you can get a pretty good beat. Now, like looking back, I think I said the same thing going into 2020. Looking back, I don't think it was necessarily, and plus that was just a weird circumstance, which is just the way everything went. And plus, I think that team came out strong and then read their own hype and all of that kind of stuff. But certainly in the years in which Jim has acted very enthusiastic, whether it be spring or fall camp, certainly fall camp, in 2016, there was that enthusiasm, kind of like this feeling like this could be it. Like you get that. I remember feeling that way like 2003, 2004 Pistons. It's like you have that feeling before the season even starts. You're like, this kind of feels like this is an opportunity. 2018 kind of had that same type of bravado. 2021, certainly. Probably more so than any of the others. So there you go. But in 2017, no, it definitely, I felt like right out of the gates, I was kind of like, I feel like he isn't super confident in what he's got right now. And 2019, I kind of felt the same thing. That even though he was sitting there saying he expects to win the Big Ten and everything like that, it just didn't feel like it was coalescing the same way. It didn't feel like that type of excitement. And that could just be a feeling that I get when I'm in that building. But there have been times where I've been in there and it's like you can feel that maybe Jim Harbaugh does not have that utmost faith in what he has. And there's times where it's like, oh yeah, he feels like he can go to war with these guys Right now, it's the latter. If you listen to him, you would think that they have not missed a beat. Now, they might miss a beat somewhat, at least in the spring, in the sense of there really isn't the quarterback competition because J.J. McCarthy not having surgery, which is good news, very, very good news, but is still practicing but not throwing. It's a non-surgical repair situation for his shoulder. So don't get to see that what people were hoping were a situation where he could really come on strong, unfortunately. But the good news is it sounds like he'll be fully healthy by summer. It sounds like he'll be a full go at fall camp. It doesn't sound like it's anything that's that serious. Obviously, no surgery required. So that is huge news. And he said that Cade's coming along awesome. So it's I think that's fine, right? Because, I mean, you have a quarterback who led you to a win over Ohio State that won the Big Ten championship. And you know what? Cade McNamara can get better. That's the thing that people just act like, okay, we know who he is. We know what it is. We've seen quarterbacks over, maybe not at Michigan too much, but we've seen quarterbacks turn things on. We've seen Jalen Hurts really seem, I know that's probably not a fair one because he won a national championship, but he was thought of as being kind of a ho-hum guy, really turned things on late in his career. In the NFL, Drew Brees turned things on late in his career, or not late in his career, but when it was, I wonder how many of you remember when he was at San Diego and they had already drafted Phillip Rivers, he was a dead man walking. It was thought of like, well, this guy out of Purdue is a bust. Didn't go that way. This is actually, I'm not going to say best case scenario because it certainly isn't, but it could potentially be a good scenario that Cade continues to get some work, knowing that he's going to have someone breathing down his neck come February. That should help him, not February, wow, come fall camp. But that should help him in the sense of understanding more so like, hey, this is I'm playing with house money right now, but I'm not going to be able to do that soon, you know? Cannot keep this microphone sitting up around my mouth here. Anyway, it's there's a lot to like about the Michigan football offense, which is also a part that he said was scary good. We're going to delve more into that because I asked him another question that he had an interesting answer to. But first, before we do, I got to tell you a little something about Built Bar. Y'all know how much I love Built Bar. I've got the cookies and the white chocolate cookies and cream upstairs. They are delicious. They are incredible. Here's the thing about Built Bar. If you don't know what it is, it's a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. It is high protein, low calorie, low carb. It's everything that you want in a protein bar. You can have 2 at a time, make it a meal replacement situation like I often do, and it's still lower calorie and higher protein than going out and getting like a Metrics Big 100. And like I said, they're delicious. They've got so many flavors. They're constantly rotating in new ones. Some come back, some leave. My favorites are those ones usually, the peanut butter brownie, coconut brownie chunk. But some of their base flavors are phenomenal as well. So anyway, go to Built.com. Use the promo code LOCK15. That's Built.com, promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off of your next order of Built Bar. All right, listen. Anyone take a team that you just don't think is necessary? You're like, I'm going to will this team to win, whether it's Michigan or another one, and then your bracket's busted. Yeah, mine's not going to be looking too good if I do that, but guess what? I can still get some cash from the Stat Hero Pick'em. If you haven't checked out this new platform, you're really missing out. Stat Hero's NCAA single game Pick'ems pits the star players against others in an amazing hybrid between fantasy and sports gambling. Taking control back from those handicappers that always seem to have the advantage. Start focusing on players you know best with a gameplay that doesn't rely on big spreads, long odds, or funky props. Stat Hero gives you the advantage, resulting in their gamers winning 4 times more often. Why? Because Stat Hero eliminates the mystery about who or what you are going up against. In addition to their pick'em games, they also have dozens of lineups you can comb through to take on head-to-head. They simply post sets of players for you to take on with the set of players you choose. Stat Hero is the easiest and fastest way to get your sports action fix. The simple, sleek gameplay will have you playing in minutes, and that is what daily fantasy is meant to be. So sign up for free right now at stathero.com/lockedon. And for 100% deposit match. That's stathero.com/lockedon. Use the promo code lockedon for a 100% deposit match. Stathero.com/lockedon. Promo code Locked On. Terms and conditions apply. All right, let's continue on talking about this Jim Harbaugh press conference. Hopefully my microphone can just stay put. If you're watching, you're seeing me just constantly adjusting here. Anyway, I asked him also about because you look at like the internet out there, there's been a lot of hype about some guys like Darius Clemens. So I'm like, how are these true freshman receivers? Normally we ask about the 5-star, but I am super excited about Darius Clemens in particular. And I just asked about all three, hoping he would single one out. He didn't. He named all three: Amarian Walker, Darius Clemens, and Tyler Morris. But he called them freak show and said that they are really like, yeah, they're just starting to like learn about their abilities, and like that's what they're trying to kind of figure out how they can fit in so that they can play early and whatever. But they are really just knocking it out of the park so far in the spring. And that's probably why you hear of like Sainristil still trying out on the other side of the ball. Now, Jim Harbaugh also said that Sainristil still, not to change gears entirely here, but Sainristil still is very likely to be a 2 or maybe 3-way player. So they're trying him out on the other side of the ball. That doesn't mean that he's going to be there forever. I usually hate when, a player goes from one side of the ball to the other. It just seems like most of the time you end up putting them back where they started. Usually, Ben Mason came in as a fullback. They moved him to linebacker. They moved him to fullback. They moved him to defensive end. They moved him back to fullback. Ben Van Sumeren came in as a linebacker. They moved him to fullback. They moved him back to linebacker. You know what I mean? Like it seems like it's been very rare that a guy switches positions and then sticks around. Some of them that switch positions don't end up sticking around. But maybe it could be a help to an already deep part of the team. And that makes it also that much more confusing that Iman Dennis seems to be working out on the offensive side of the ball. Even though I kind of thought when he came in that would be probably where he would end up. But it's when you have these three receivers, I mean, this really, in my eyes, could be the most loaded wide receiver room that Michigan has ever had. And yes, I'm aware of how much they've had before. Not saying that they've got like 3,000-yard guys per se, but I mean, they've got like 9 options that are all viable. Let me just run through it. Let's say these 3 freshmen work out and can all play early, because I think we have a lot of faith in some of these players that we've seen kind of intermittently, like Andrell Anthony. We don't know much about Christian Dickinson. He'll need to take a step forward, of course, but those are your 2 from last year. But let's just recap, because I think it's a worthwhile exercise. Ronnie Bell returns. You still have Cornelius Johnson, Roman Wilson, A.J. Henning, Mike Sainristil still, if he's on that side of the ball, Andrell Anthony, Christian Dickinson, Darius Clemens, Amarian Walker, and Tyler Morris. So that's a potential 10 guys that can all be game breaker types. And then we're not even talking about the tight ends, which makes that even more. If the passing game does not take off, Michigan's doing something wrong. Because as much as, you want to highlight that run game, you want to get the run game going, man, oh man, they have got so many weapons. And this to me is like, they've got weapons, they've got guys who can throw the ball. Let's see it actually happen, right? Let's see it work, because if you had, I'm not saying that this is Ohio State right now, because I think that's probably still the best collection of receivers, but any other place in the country, if they had this group, they'd be like salivating at throwing the ball. So I would imagine that Michigan will do that. I mean, they'll still run the ball. They're not just going to be like, oh yeah, we're just going to throw. Good luck, Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum. But they're still going to commit to it, because you can't do what they tried to do in 2020, which was just throw the ball and that game gets away from you and then good luck. But I think that this is just such a collection. And to hear him say freak show about those 3 guys, I mean, it feels kind of like when they brought in, the foursome, that it didn't end up working out great, but, Tariq, Nico, Donovan, and Oliver Martin. But like, let's imagine that these three guys do work out. I mean, it's not four, but let's imagine these guys do work out. That if they work out, if you have like, Jim said that Darius Clemens reminds him of Nico Collins back in the day he signed. Say that that's what they've got is a couple guys like that. Say that Amarian Walker is another Andrell Anthony, which I don't know. That's kind of what I think in my mind. Could be super wrong there. And Tyler Morris, like what Steve Wiltfong said, he would be rated much higher if he didn't get injured. And he's like a steady Eddie. He's got familiarity with J.J. McCarthy, of course, having gone to the same school for most of the time together. And that could just be like those three guys could be scary on their own, let alone the guys that are already established. And imagine if some guys like Cornelius Johnson get better. Imagine if some others like the Andrell Anthony suddenly just take that, if he becomes that type of player like we saw in the MSU game. It could be incredible. All right, other notable news that Jim shared. Trente Jones is the front runner at right tackle, which has been what I've been projecting for quite some time. So there is that, and I think that that's exciting. But otherwise, we didn't really get to delve much into the defense. We didn't really get to, except for the fact that he's really confident in Mozzie Smith. He thinks Mike Morris could be that next great Michigan pass rusher. He also mentioned Taylor Upshaw and Braden McGregor. So I'm curious to see if Gabe Newberg comes back from injury and is able to be the game wrecker. Like I think I've told you guys before, a former staffer told me they see him as being Winovich 2.0. But he last year was finally supposed to come on and do some things. He got injured. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. All right, let's move on to Juwan Howard. But before we do, and if I can actually click on things correctly, and it doesn't seem like I can, listen, March Madness is next week? That means you need to start thinking now about where you're going to be running your brackets this year. Are you going for the usual or are you looking for the best? We've done our homework here and we're running brackets with runyourpool.com. Along with standard brackets, Run Your Pool offers game types like Survivor or Pick X. Both are really fun in their own way. They have options to edit scoring and they offer more intel to make your picks, all stuff you won't find at ESPN or CBS. If you've got a business, Run Your Pool can help you take some of that madness magic and play alongside your employees or even gain customers. Plus, they offer full white gloves, customer support, custom branding, and one of the easiest 3-minute setups you'll ever find. Clearly, we believe Run Your Pool because, like I said, we're running our brackets there ourselves. There's no truer test than that. I want you to play. If you want to play against us for a shot at winning a cash prize, join us at runyourpool.com/lockedon. Also, we're going to set up one for Locked On Wolverines. I think I'm just going to offer like $100 right out of my own pocket or something like that to the winner. So if I win, I get to keep it. Anyway, and while you're there, create your own pool for your friends and family. Enter Pure Madness at checkout for $10 off your custom pool. All the rules and details will be available there. That's runyourpool.com/lockedon for your chance to win a cash prize. We look forward to seeing and beating you there. All right, listen. This episode is also brought to you by Rock Auto. With ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing only the brands their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home as well as in your pocket. So save some time and money while using Rock Auto. Rock Auto is a family business serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. They have everything you can need from brake parts, tail lamps, motor oil, and even new carpet. So go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck, right locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. All right, just a couple minutes here to discuss Juwan Howard's press conference. I thought that obviously knew he was going to address the Wisconsin incident since it's the first time since the post game there that he has. But I also had anticipated that it was going to be a little bit more of a, what are you expecting from Indiana? How are you approaching the Big Ten tournament? None of that. It was 20 minutes of Wisconsin stuff, basically. And he led up with a very long opening statement. You can read that on wolverineswire.usatoday.com. But The whole transcript I have up there. But he apologized, said, I'm not going to make excuses. I'm not going to sit there and say this person started it or this person did this. He said, nope, I'm going to take ownership of the situation. Preaching accountability was something he said that he talked to both Moussa Diabate and Terrence Williams, the other two who were suspended, about as well. And ultimately just very contrite, said he hasn't talked to anyone at Wisconsin, but he says in person he wants to be able to look Joe Krabenhoft in the eye and apologize. And he said same for Greg Gard and others. He said he wants to wait till after the season, but I mean, he might get that opportunity in Indy here. But it's interesting that's the thought, that's the focus. But I do want to remind you what he told me when I ran into him last week out and about, when he said, he's been grinding. He hasn't taken any time off. So, and he kind of mentioned like, I was preparing for all of our possible opponents that we could have for the Big Ten tournament. I'm sure it's going to be the same. If they can find a way to get the way that they've played pretty much every other game mixed in with because obviously I feel like you hope that every other game situation that's been going back for a while now falls. Since they just beat Ohio State, you hope that they come out and beat Indiana on Thursday. But you feel like, okay, they have an opportunity. If they can beat Indiana, get to Illinois, then you hope that it's, that they can find a way there. But Hunter Dickinson finally came back to practice. He did say that was the only kind of question that he got that was kind of outside of the suspension talk and whatever. But I definitely believe he is contrite. I definitely believe that he is feeling bad about what happened. He apologized, not only everyone at Wisconsin, but everyone at Michigan, his coaches, his players' families, the Michigan alumni, Michigan fans, everyone kind of involved, and recognizes how much it hurt the team. And he said that he knows he's going to be under a microscope from here on in. And gauging by some of the comments I've seen out there in the internet sphere, I think that's probably somewhat the case. So nonetheless, now he's just got to practice what he's preached, right? So it'll be interesting to see how things go moving forward. The handshake line, which he says he still hopes sticks around, the first one will be, that's going to be a big thing, right? It's going to be focused, especially if something happens in the game. But don't necessarily expect that against Indiana, but you never know. But anyway, all right, that's going to do it for us today. We will be back probably early on Thursday before the Big Ten tournament game. With the mailbag. So if you're listening to this on Wednesday night, get your questions in on Twitter. I've already had the tweet out for a while. So anyway, thank you for watching and or listening. We will talk to you again soon. Peace.